What is up, everybody? It is Alex for what feels like a long time, back again with the EOT News Flash. This is episode 114, a 2019 in review. I am joined by some very special guests tonight. To my immediate left, if you're watching this on YouTube, which you should be, we have our good friend Ben Levin. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Hi, Ben.
Doing excellent.
Hey, Chris.
I actually haven't seen Ben in the flesh in a few months, so it feels weird.
Since Throneville Drain?
Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, glad to have you here. And also to my immediate right on the YouTube, in my actual physical presence, Mr. Chris Civita. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing good.
Excellent.
Doing good.
Thank you
Really
guys. Yes. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. As always, of course, thank you for watching this over on YouTube. If you're enjoying the content as sporadic as it has been, don't forget to like the video, share us a comment, all that good stuff. Really helps out the channel a lot. And we've got more stuff coming in the new year. But I thought today would be a really good time to sort of look back at 2019 as a whole, look at the big products that came out, look at the sort of the hits, the misses, the limited aspects of a lot of the sets that came out this year, and also look at the sort of the ancillary products, your commanders and your sort of your non-standard expansions that came out this year. So we're just gonna jump right into it. We're gonna start right at the top of the year with Ravnica Allegiance. It was the middle set in the return to Ravnica 2 Electric Boogaloo block. The big build up to the fight with Nicol Bolas and War of the Spark. So Ben, we played a lot of that at Dungeon. What were sort of your big hits for in terms of cards for Ravnica Allegiance?
So some of the cards, especially for limited, because I didn't play a ton of standard. Illigot Inheritance.
Oh my god!
Like Orzhov actually as a color pair in that set.
Disgusting.
It was degenerate.
Yes.
It was such a good color combination.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of really good decks going Esper as well.
It was a good. I think the limited format, from what I remember, I enjoyed. But it was definitely Orzhov dominated. Like was Rakdos in that set too?
Rakdos was probably the most underwhelming in my opinion.
Yes.
For me, Simic and Orzhov were the two guilds that I consistently did the best with. Orzhov hands down. Like some of the mythics and the rares in those colors were just absolutely bonkers. Just unreal cards in that color combination.
You had High Alert for Azorius, so you had the
Big
deck.
Butt deck. Yeah. What about you, Chris? What are your big hits for Ravnica Allegiance?
There were so many for limited or for standard.
Just any big hit for you for that set.
You gotta go with mass manipulation. How many games and mythics and whatnot have been won because of that one card?
Yeah, and we got to see it at all Mythic Championships this year. Such a huge card. I would definitely throw Hydroid Krasis into the mix as well, because that card is still dominating standard. Lavinia Azorius Renegade, a card that you really don't hear about outside except for Vintage, has really sort of shaken up that format with its ability to shut down all of the free spells or free, like the Moxen and things like that.
Yeah, I was actually able to use her in an EDH game this week.
Hey, there you go.
So somebody was trying to come off. It was an Urza deck, and I was like, no.
There you go.
I want to build her so bad.
Oh yeah. Hero Precinct 1 also gave us the Esper Hero deck.
Oh, that was a thing.
Yeah, for
that was a fun deck
for standard. So definitely a lot of really good. Just like I wouldn't say aside from Hydroid Krasis, nothing really like lit the world on fire in terms of just big bombs, but definitely a lot of role player cards for that set. And definitely one thing I wanted to ask you guys about was, this was the third or second time that they did the Mythic editions for a standard set, where you got a booster box of 24 boosters instead of the usual 36. And of those 24, 8 had a alternate art, full frame, special foil Planeswalker in there. And just wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on Mythic editions in general. And do you want to see them continue doing that? Because we'll get to the one for Eldraine, obviously. But how do you guys feel about Mythic editions? I'll go to you first, Ben.
It was a cool concept, but I really just didn't like how I don't want to say exclusive because that's not the word I'm looking for.
Oh, it's a very appropriate word, I think.
Because I don't know. It sucks that everyone couldn't do it. I would rather have seen it where it's a box and those packs have more options for full art cards instead of being it's like these are the 16 you're getting. I would rather it be, hey, these are the 40 or whatever rares in the set that can have it, and then there's these special planeswalkers that you can get. You're able to go to the store and buy it, or there's more availability, or like a box topper where you get a box and you get like a pack that has one of these random walkers in it.
Okay, yeah. What about you, Chris? What do you feel?
I liked it in concept and design. I hated it in execution.
That's kind of why I was curious.
That's like
available only on the Hasbro Play Store.
Right. So that was my biggest thing. Like for me,
availability.
Magic is always an LGS thing.
Yes. And that's something that we can definitely we've seen more and more of them kind of moving away from the LGS, with the Secret Layers being only available online, all the Mythic editions being available online only, and just the horrible experience that everybody had with that. We got our first impression of Ultimate Masters because Wizards dropped the ball so hard on the Guilds of Ravnica Mythic Edition. Like, that's how we learned about that product. So yeah, I definitely think it's a cool idea, but definitely an execution.
And the other thing I really liked about it too is that the cards they were introducing weren't necessarily like new cards to formats or anything like that. It was big cards that just needed. Well, I wouldn't say
a reprint.
They didn't need a reprint, but you know what I mean. Like, it was just like high power level cards. Get the people that were like maybe not necessarily interested in standard, interested in buying some more product.
That's fair. Yeah.
And like that all sounds great, but then once you take out the local game aspect, then it kind of loses me because like I go to play Magic to see people. I don't go to Magic. I don't play Magic just to be like, hey, look at my shiny collection.
No, I totally agree there.
Yeah, I definitely think if those planeswalkers they had were sold as a separate set, like kind of like how the Secret Lairs were, where it's like, go to your LGS and like here's the master set in honors of like Ravnica Allegiance, and they had some planeswalkers that are in Ravnica, like older versions of some of them, and then some like just high powered ones, and still just the 16 walkers for like however much. I think that would have been a much better execution instead of buying just a box, and you're guaranteed to get them, but people aren't drafting the set. People aren't buying those to draft. People are buying them for those however many walkers there were.
Yeah, eight per box. I mean, I would have almost preferred them do like they did the masterpieces with Battle for Zendikar, Kaladesh, and just see.
That's what I thought it was when
I was thinking more or less just from the vault,
from the vault. Yeah,
from the vault was
exactly.
Yeah.
But that was kind of my take on it. Like.
Yeah, it's a cool idea, and if you're able to get them, awesome. But if you're not able to get them, it really leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and
and they're expensive. They're like $300?
Hella expensive, yeah. And like you were saying, I've never felt like Magic was gated by a barrier to entry. You can always play Magic on any price level, but as we've seen more and more recently, especially, there have been some real barriers to entry due to the way that they're releasing some cards. And we'll get to that here
for sure.
in a minute. But let's roll a little bit forward into 2019 with War of the Spark. The set that I would go as far as saying ruined Standard.
But made
that's an understatement.
Great.
But limited are great, yeah. So if
limited was awesome.
Yeah, if you didn't play War of the Spark, if you're a newer Magic player, the set had, was it 36 planeswalkers in it?
Yeah. Yes. Plus the box topper.
Plus the box topper of Tezzeret, but you had planeswalkers at uncommon, rare, and mythic rarity, all kinds of static abilities,
and multiple arts.
Multiple arts.
Japanese.
Oh, that's right. We had, in the Japanese packs, you could get alternate arts of these damn things.
Well, I think you were guaranteed all Japanese. If you opened a Japanese pack, weren't you guaranteed the alternate art, or am I stupid?
No, it was I think it was like 1 in 4.
Well, yeah, it wasn't guaranteed, yeah. But yeah, you could get Japanese alternate art planeswalkers, just a massively hyped set for a really big end to the war against Nicol Bolas. So, just aside from just the absurdity of having that many planeswalkers in there, Ben, give me your big hits from that set. What really knocked it out of the park, or
So
ruined the park,
in terms
so
of
to
big
speak.
hit, and also the thing that upset me the most physically and mentally was Teferi, because we don't need another one.
Fairy.
So stop it. The Green Nissa.
Who takes the world?
Stupid powerful in standard. I don't know how it did in limited. I didn't really get to see any. But in EDH also, it's just like just a stupid good card in the right deck.
Yeah.
I love both of those. There was one more. Then you have Narset, you have Saheeli, and you have those are it. Narset and Saheeli. Mostly Narset, if we're being honest. Just I think one of the strongest planeswalkers ever printed. And it's at uncommon.
At least for the effect that it did.
For the effect.
Yeah.
Yes,
The
exactly.
limiting of the card draw is
how much it
huge.
costs.
Especially in older formats, especially.
It's so rare to see standard cards breaking into like modern and legacy and like older.
Especially at uncommon.
Yeah, Narset reached all the way back to
Fatal
vintage
Push?
for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think Fatal Push was the last standard card that got like played in older formats that was an uncommon.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And the limited format, you kind of alluded to that a little bit with what your comments on Ravnica Allegiance there, Ben. I had more fun drafting Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark, because I wanted to see just how far I could stretch the sort of the what was acceptable for a limited deck. I mean, I can't count how many 5-color drafts I did. And it was always awesome.
And you ran. I remember some of your decks. You had more planeswalkers than you had creatures.
Oh yeah. I mean that was sort of the if you didn't draft the planeswalkers, you weren't playing the game right. I don't think that was a set that really tested your ability to evaluate things on a completely different axis. Because your average player who sits down for a draft maybe once or twice a week at the local game store, how often do they see a planeswalker?
Well,
never. Well, not often enough, I would say.
One thing I will say about the planeswalkers, though, that I appreciate, at least for the uncommon ones and down, was the one ability and like the static. So, like,
the design certainly helped. Yeah,
I feel like with that they effectively became more like enchantments with an activated ability versus like here's a game warping effect.
Yeah, but some of them certainly did warp in some cases.
Teferi did. Nissa did.
Yeah,
but for limited, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
For limited, I remember Sorin Vengeful Blood. That card blew me out every time that got cast. That card was impossible to deal with.
No, Johnny was.
Johnny was. Sorin was. I mean, and I just remember the pre-release being an absolute, nightmare, especially if your opponent was able to play all 6 of their planeswalkers, and they all had.
And then Nicol Bolas and had all the
Oh,
I remember we rebuilt some of our decks so many times for the pre-release because it's like, no, this doesn't make any sense to have this many planeswalkers, and we did it, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'm in 4-colored walkers. What am I doing? And all of a sudden, it's just popping off. Like,
and there was just
dark doubles on top of like
yes, but having things like Guild Globe, Firemine Vessel, there was just enough fixing in that set that if you really wanted to stretch what was potentially doable in a limited set, which typically you don't want to go like unless the set is specifically designed for 3+ colors, like Khans of Tarkir, for instance. You're never really rewarded for going that deep down the rabbit hole. But I still look at the pictures of my decks that I built because I like to catalog my draft decks like that, and I just look at it and go, this shouldn't have worked, but it did.
I definitely think one of the biggest duds out of this set, it wasn't this set, it was the fact that all the new walkers still don't have statics, like the rares, and I really liked that idea. I liked the static ability a lot.
Oh, sure. Maybe not, pushing the idea as far as it probably could have gone.
Yeah, I think they could have definitely built on it more and tuned it more to make them not, we'll get to Oko later, but not Oko. I don't know. I felt like it was a really cool concept, and it was executed really well, and you were able to see what was a good inherent ability, or just a good line of text, and then what was kind of busted.
Yeah.
And just kind of building off of those concepts, I think would have made really cool walkers for other sets.
Yeah.
So I think Wizards' lessons from this year is 3 CMC walkers are a problem.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Well,
we'll get to that.
not even going as far as that, but even with this set, we started seeing that because
Teferi and Narset.
Narset,
yeah.
And then
And Saheeli
Nissa was a turn 3 walker.
Yeah.
We'll call her turn 3.
we'll get to so we have to go a little bit more forward in time before we get to that point, because at that point Nissa wasn't as good as she is now.
There was Llanowar.
Yeah.
Well, Llanowar, yeah. Well, not until the core set dropped. Because it wasn't. Yeah. So like, as we get like the more sets we get into standard, the more dangerous things become. And obviously that's actually a really good transition to talk about core set 2020. Was this the return? No, last year was the return of the core set.
This was the Elementals and Chandra.
Yeah. The Chandra themed core set, which I thought was a vast improvement over core set 2019, just in terms of mechanics, color identity, and things like that. What were some big hits for you out of core set 2020 here, Ben?
The new Chandra, just because I opened like 4 of them.
Yeah, you hit me with how many of those at one game?
Yeah, I had a lot of Chandras. I think the Cavalier cycle, because again, I threw out a draft with it, but Cavalier Gales especially in a limited format, and it's just a powerful mythic.
Yeah,
as they should.
They're
I
all
like
powerful,
the Cavalier cycle
and
the whole elemental synergy.
Yeah, we'll get to see just how good 2 of them actually became within 2 sets here. Well, Chris, what about you for big hits from the set? Field of the Dead.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that card.
I got blown out by that card so many times. It's not even funny. That one, and of course that card's right hand man Golos.
Yeah,
I mean those 2 cards. And
good job, Wizards.
I was glad that the Scape Shift deck was only a thing for a few months before that rotated out. But then what came after that was potentially worse because we didn't have the answers to it.
Yeah, and we technically still don't. And the other,
we need some form of land
that
is viable.
Field of Ruin is, I think, just like needs to be a staple card. Yeah, Core 21 needs to be in there probably, or some kind of something
even
to that
Lair.
effect.
Yeah,
I can see it coming out in Lair Behemoth or.
Oh yeah. Veil of Summer was also a really big card. Once we
another
got
uncommon.
Yeah, another random $7 uncommon.
That got banned.
7. Yeah. and it all kind of revolves around the next set, and that's where we're gonna get to like the crux of all the problems.
Before we go there, I will say with Core 20, that was probably one of my favorite sets to draft. So the 2 sets before that were just fun to draft.
Yeah.
Core 20 was like actually great for just drafting in general because there was at first it didn't look like much, but then the more you dove into that set, it was just you actually had to know what you were doing, and it was great. Yeah.
I do have one gripe against two small gripes, and they're really not, and it's really just sort of my own personal opinion of them. I felt that the elemental deck was far too prevalent. Especially when I was drafting online in Arena, it happens far too often. It kind of reminded me of the Elf deck in Eternal Masters. If you guys ever drafted that, how that was sort of the de facto not even the best deck. It was always the deck that you could always end up in because there were so many pieces to the deck, but if you didn't have the payoff, you really didn't have much of a deck going for you. So I got to see a lot of elemental decks, both in person and online, that had all of sort of the wheels and everything, but really no engine to get it going. They had no Risen Reef. They had no the Brawler, Lavakin Brawler, or anything to make the deck really finish. It was just a bunch of the Ember Cats and the Flying 2/1 that drew your card. So I kind of felt that was overly represented. And I also thought that including the life gain lands, dual lands in there, was a bit of a stumbling block for a lot of players, especially newer players, who look at that and go, well, I can just play as many colors as I want. Like, no. And it really turns into a bit of a trap. I remember when we did the set review for Limited, we talked a little bit about 3 and 3+ color decks and just kind of came to the conclusion, this is a bad idea. Do not try this in this format unless you're getting all the dual lands, essentially. Like, you open one every pack.
Because this format was definitely driven, as I think most limited sets are, but I feel this set in particular, looking at the uncommons, it was driven by the uncommon.
Yeah,
you would open a dual color uncommon, and you would pick that over some rares, and that's would be your synergy for the deck.
Yeah, and you need to just stick in that color without.
I was about to say Risen Reef. I first picked Risen Reef.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how many packs.
I would pack one, pick one Risen Reef over almost any single rare in the set. Like
that's a bold statement.
There are some good.
Oh, there were, but I'm saying most of the rares aren't all great.
Yeah, for what it did so much for so little investment for you. So
I will say this set also had some of the best sideboards stuff. So like you talked about the Veil.
Oh yeah, Veil Summer.
I was able to
Aether Gust.
I was basically able to main deck the Noxious Grasp in a few of my decks, just because, like you said, how prevalent that Elementals deck was. It was like, okay, I'll probably see one of those colors.
Yeah, and we'll get to
and Disenchant.
Yeah, and of course I think we can just transition to the sort of the biggest problem that Wizards faced this year, where a lot of what we've already kind of touched on all culminates here with Throne of Eldraine.
Before we say the bad, can we just say the concept for this set was amazing? And
Grim Fairy Tales, Arthurian lore, legend and lore.
Because I remember when it was coming up to it, we were like, oh my god, these cards are great, and little did we know how great they were going to be.
Yeah.
But it was a very well thought out set. I don't know how they got away with some of the IP, because I swear Disney should have.
Oh yeah. I mean, fortunately, a lot of it's in like sort of that public domain space that you can't really claim ownership over. But it is what it is.
I definitely think for Throne, this has been the set. I don't think I've drafted the set once.
Oh my god, you missed out, man! It's so good.
I think a lot of it was Magic though. I think between.
Oh no, keep going.
I think a lot of it was just kind of Magic, like your end of the year, and you have Ravnica Allegiance, War of the Spark, Core 20, Commander, Modern Horizons, and you're just at that point you're just like.
Yeah, it's definitely a burnout, and I think Wizards really had to pull out all the stops to make this set hit. Obviously, anything that comes out in the end of the year is going to be subject to holiday time and all that. So like. This one obviously at least for me, it got a little lost a little bit in the shuffle. But there are obviously a lot of pieces in this set that really ruined Standard.
Putting it loosely.
Yeah. So let's go to the big hits first. So, Oko, Thief of Crowns.
Oko,
he's the biggest hit, and he's also the biggest blunder I've seen Wizards make since I started playing.
It's he's now been banned in Standard. He's been banned in Brawl on Arena. He's been banned in Pioneer, and that's it. But this is a card that has
and banned Brawl.
Banned in Brawl as Commander and in the 99. That saw immediate play in Standard. Is seeing still play in Modern. Sees play in Legacy.
Turned a Black Lotus into an Elk. To swing for lethal.
At the Vintage Championships this year. Sees play in Legacy, has easily supplanted True Name Nemesis as the best 3-drop in the format, and sees plays in Vintage as well.
Yeah,
the other problem is this set turned sideboard cards like Noxious Grasp, like Veil of Summer into 4 of main decks.
Yeah, if we go back and look at the Mythic Championship deck list, we were seeing all of the black.
Oko?
What's that?
Wasn't it like 90% Oko or something?
Oh, it was
top 8.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Day 1 was 75% of the field. Day 2 was like 80 something. Day 3 was all Oko.
Yeah. And basically, you were able to main deck Noxious Grasp just to take care of Oko. The blue decks had Aether Gust in their decks, and of course, Veil of Summer gets the axe as well, because it basically invalidated your ability to play an interactive tempo game anymore. Oko created just so many problems, and the fact that we had Gilded Goose is probably part of that equation as well. Gilded Goose and Elvish Mystic allowing you to accelerate into a turn 2 Oko, turn 3 Nissa Who Shakes the World, really sped up the format to the point where I think the ban was necessitated by that. But to have sort of that critical turn, if you will, in Standard be on turn 2, where if I played a turn 1 elf or a turn 2 goose, and my opponent's first play is a Scryland, they have no interaction. They're just dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing they can do.
Elvish Mystic wasn't in the set?
Core 2020.
No, it's the 2-drop. Paradise
Kindred?
Druid?
Oh, Paradise Druid. Yeah, Paradise Druid. Yeah.
Paradise
Elvish
Druid.
Mystic is the Llanowar elf reprint.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I remember we've had this discussion a few times. You're saying what the main issue is just 1-drop dorks.
Yeah, one drop dorks is a huge problem.
We didn't have the issue so much with when it came out in what was the last big set that we had Llanowar elves.
Dominaria was that.
So, and like we started seeing like green was up on the rise again, but we had the 2 Teferis to just bounce them.
Yeah,
Bounce it.
Speaking of green, green has been just the hallmark color all year. We look at Hydrid Krasis, who is a key part of these blue-green decks. We see Nissa, who shakes the world. We see Gilded Goose. We see Paradise Druid. We see what's the wolf, Wicked Wolf, just being an absolute nightmare to deal with.
Questing Beast too is
Questing Beast is a huge card.
So like outside of like that 2 or 3 months where we had like the Esper dominated format, outside of that, it's like you said, it's been green all year. It was either Simic Flash, it was more Simic Flash,
Simic Flash, blue green ramp. We got Fires of Invention as well.
We had the Golgari food and we had the Sultai.
Yeah, Sultai food was the big deck at the Mythic Championship. Which allowed them to play those Noxious Grasps in the main board.
Yeah, you weren't color restricted as much.
And just within the last couple weeks, we had the Corvold green deck.
Yeah.
Even after the bans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you get rid of Oko, that just opens up so much play into the format. Like,
because having Oko
format's
means you
finally
can't play a
starting to feel
5-drop
like
because
it's
because having Oko in the format means any 5-drop you play is a 5-mana 3/3.
Exactly. It invalidated so many problems that you typically a blue-green deck should have a problem with, just completely invalidated. Thanks to Oko. And you look at that card and you just how did this get through testing? Did they ever even cast this? I mean,
so
what were they doing?
I Summer Dog.
That I guess what the original plan was on the plus to use the plus for your own food that you had created.
No,
that was the plan. And now I have a defender. But I guess they had complete and total oversight on that's right, this invalidates everything my opponent does.
I think they probably underestimated what turning stuff into a 3/3 mean in a format, just being hey, you're a 3/3 now instead of anything else that you were.
Yeah, and I think
there's something we can do.
Yeah, and I think if maybe Oko hadn't made food himself, it probably wouldn't have been as bad. But just the fact that I think this was the first time a Planeswalker created a token or tied into a mechanic so well, your turn 1 Gilded Goose literally built the fuel for Oko, and just from there on out, it was just the resource advantage was just so insurmountable. Unreal.
Before this set, because you were there for the one deck I built, what I actually in limited, where I actually had pulled an Oko and a Gilded Goose somehow.
Completely unfair.
I actually felt bad playing a deck for once because I was like, wow, this is outclassing everybody so much. It's not even fair.
It's not even it's the fact that it was the food token and it was just such a it's not like an Elspeth or something where it's here are my tokens. It's here's this thing, here's this other thing. In this situation, it's stupid powerful, and it.
Yeah. Well, Elspeth also costs 6.
Yes, but I'm just saying as a general example of walkers who kind of do generic things, and I think in terms of flavor, he was awesome.
Oh yeah.
But
very well tied in.
If he was a 4, he would probably still be too good. If he was a 5, he might be more fair.
Yeah, I mean, we can play with numbers all day long, but the fact of the matter is that Wizards screwed up so much on that one card that it really kind of took away from all the other cool cards that were in the set. I mentioned Fires of Invention, which gave us 5-color and Jeskai Fires decks where, Ben, you mentioned the Cavaliers from Core 2020 becoming a really big thing in limited and standard.
My favorite EDH card right now is Great Henge.
Yeah, Great Henge.
I need to
get we finally get to see cards like that. We get to see
Magic Mirror.
Magic Mirror do some stuff.
I'm having some fun with Folio Fancies in a couple of my decks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great cards like Embercleave. Actually starting to see some standards.
Huge card.
Starting to see some standard play too, because now, hey, we don't have to worry about green everywhere.
Yeah.
So I have a question.
All right.
Just an idea. So what if for Oko, right? If he had either an ability, a static ability, that the first food you make each turn can be a 3/3 elk instead. Just the first food.
Then it's far too good.
No, absolutely
still
not.
Too good?
It's still too good.
Because then you're giving it more options.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Or what if instead of turning the creature or artifact into an elk, it destroyed it?
Or do you not want 1+ and 1- ability, maybe. But
if it wasn't 2 pluses. There you go.
Yes, that's fair. If it was like +1 make a food, -1 make a 3/3.
Yeah. And let's not talk about how disgusting that card was in limited. It was I single-handedly. I mean, my 2-headed giant pre-release I played with my girlfriend. We played a game against two guys who had 1 Oko in their deck. They played it on turn 3, and the game was lost on the spot.
Yeah, we did that in the finals. My buddy and I, we had an Oko in my deck, and we're like, all right, cool, turn 3 Oko.
There's nothing that could have been done. Yeah.
And we're like, yes.
And even more about limited. My biggest complaint about limited for this set, primarily when it came to Magic Arena, was the prevalency of the mill deck.
Oh, God.
I absolutely despise Merfolk Secret Keeper and didn't say please.
And there's also was it Drowned in Secrets or there's a blue enchantment too, wasn't there? Or
no, only that's the 2.
Oh no, that's the standard. I think that may have been like a standard janky deck.
Yeah, Drowned in Secrets was Guilds of Ravnica.
Okay, but I've been seeing the 3 of those. I've actually been milled out in a standard deck.
Oh yeah.
Because the format has slowed to a stop. And that's since we're talking about this set too, and we've been bringing up limited a lot. I have never seen limited games go to turns so often as I have.
For Eldraine, it was a disaster.
For Eldraine,
the food having your core mechanic be life gain.
I have.
Whose idea was that?
Legitimately, not gone to Fridays before because of it's just the format is just so slow. I don't.
Did you say I missed so much?
I don't want to sit there in top deck mode. Like me and a couple people we'll be like, okay, top pass.
Yeah.
Pass. Pass. Oh hey, there's my thing. It's killed. Pass.
Yeah. A number of my games on Arena came down to decking. Can I get some cards? Can I loop some of my deck back into my library somehow? There was the green sorcery that with if you cast with Adamant, you got to put 2 cards or back into your hand. I'm blanking on the names of them now, but yeah, just such a slow degenerate format that was really defined. Back to the mill thing. I honestly don't think that Wizards should ever put mill at common ever again.
I was fine with it as surveil. Because that's not milling your opponent, that's milling yourself. It's a whole
Yeah, I'm talking about direct mill. If my opening play is the adventure half of Merfolk Secret Keeper and you hit 2 lands out of the on top of my library, the game's gonna just end so quickly. And didn't say please for as slow as of a format as it was, just ruined so much of it.
I didn't realize that's a 1 mana mill 4. Limited
that's
at
4
common.
cards.
That's dumb.
Yeah. And then back in the day, the one that because when I first started playing Magic, Hedron Crab was a thing.
Yeah.
And it reminds me so much of that. I was like, land, okay. Mill.
Hedron Crab was an uncommon though.
I still saw it enough.
I mean, yeah, but the fact remains is that mill should not be a viable game plan in limited.
No.
Flat out. Yeah.
Theros, I saw a few. I went up against a few limited decks where it was Milbos because they had Phoenix. I was like, okay, well you pull the Phoenix.
Yeah, it's mythic rares versus commons, and my point stands till the end of time. Mill should not be viable in limited because of a couple commons. Just completely ruins things.
I definitely just doing. I only did I think 1 or 2 pre-releases at most. Like I didn't have the chance. I had plans. Just doing the pre-release. Like I think it was the most I don't want to say the most unfun pre-release I've had.
Was
not
for me.
the case. But it was pretty close to just not having a good time at it, where I'm just like, these games are just, they were
so
grindy.
Long. They're so long.
Yeah.
It was, and I was just, I'm like,
I went to turns on a game 2 multiple times.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. I was just, and then I'm like, I'm not drafting this set. I'm like, I think by the time we got here again, it was just so much burnout from everything else that was happening. I was just, I'm like, I don't like the set enough to make time to go out to the shop on Fridays.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd rather stay in.
Yeah.
I'm usually there playing EDH, so. And this set for EDH was amazing.
Yeah. Well, definitely.
For other formats, like where it's not like where you're quite as restricted to what your resources are, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of really fun set pieces in here, like things that are all super on theme for other decks, or just mechanics that we haven't really seen or thought of before.
Yeah.
Mirror Maid, great card.
Yeah, and speaking of Commander, you know, we have to talk about the Brawl decks. They finally, it took, what was it, because Brawl was created last year. I want to say I thought it was 2 years ago.
No, it came out with
Dominaria was the first time that Brawl was a thing.
Oh right, but the problem with Brawl was Brawl.
Brawl's always been a kind of this weird.
And Kumena.
Yeah. Brawl has always been sort of this red-headed stepchild for Magic, and they finally gave us precons for Brawl, which was, I thought, was pretty smart. Not being so smart was putting, you know,
Arcane Signet in the deck.
Well, Arcane Signet is not a
Arcane
problem.
Signet is perfectly fine because it can't affect
I'm just saying
standard.
for Commander.
Yeah.
It literally has text on there that saying like that is useless in standard.
I'm talking about strictly because it's like a Commander card and it's still like $10 a pop.
Well, that's fine. Commander,
for
like
standard though,
it's Soul Ring is always going to be like that. So is Arcane Signet.
I'll say every Soul Ring is still $350.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, we got these 4 Brawl decks, each with a new legendary that was standard legal but could only be found in that product. There were a couple of cards in those decks that were also exclusive to that product as well, that were still standard legal. So there's some weird push-pull there. It's kind of like the Nexus of Fate problem again, where you can only get this by buying a box or buying it online. We had a little bit of a problem with Korvold showing up in some standard decks, especially the most recent Mythic Championship and Jund Sacrifice food decks. And it created a really weird shortage of these decks. Like, it took me forever to find one. And, you know, our local game store, Dungeon, you know, sold out immediately. I think they got 6 of each last week. They're all gone now.
Yep. They go out almost
I literally went
the day.
Yeah, I literally went to Walmart the day they came out after work and bought the one I wanted.
Yeah.
I will say I'm more okay with these because like they're not necessarily as limited release as like Nexus of Fate, where it's like, okay, you have to buy a box right then and there. And then, by the way, I hope you bought 4 boxes.
Because you need 4 Nexus of Fate.
Exactly. It's not like that where you're talking about earlier in the episode with like the exclusivity and like that barrier to entry. It's not quite that, because you can still get lucky on occasion and just find these.
Yeah. And they're definitely still in big box stores for a reasonable $20 MSRP.
25,
yeah.
Yeah, they were definitely like not bad. I'm like, I saw them and I'm like, that and a collector's booster, and I'm like, all right, that was fun.
Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot about collector's boosters.
I know.
Okay, so probably
that is my favorite thing about this set.
My binder is now full of Eldraine common, uncommon foils because my girlfriend and I love buying these damn things.
the Ember Shield Cleaver or
Ember Shield Knights. So in these collector boosters, you got a number of the storybook frames. You got full art rares. You got alternate art rares. I mean,
full. I got my first collector's booster. I cracked a Castle Embereth full art foil.
Yeah, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah,
and they're gorgeous. I hate that they're $20 a pop.
Yeah.
But, that's at a box store. If you go to like not like big box retailers, I was told that Dungeon was selling them for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, and they're definitely
but here's the thing, though. Like, it's market price. We're Magic players. We know this is going to go on market price.
Yeah,
and especially with the way, and we can't blame Dungeon or any LGS.
Oh no, not at all.
At certain routes, because again, that goes back to Wizards again screwing things up and removing MSRP on their products.
Yeah, but there was always going to be a markup in a game store regardless. Like that's going to happen. So. It's nice that it isn't an exclusive product. You can still play Magic without the collector's boosters. But as we'll see moving into next year, and I don't want to get too much into this right now with Theros Beyond Death, there will be exclusive cards from the themed boosters in the collector boosters.
Oh, that's right. And you can't draft them.
And you cannot draft these collector's boosters. It's really weird, and we'll talk about that.
So they are doing collector's boosters again. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next year. But yeah, I would say that collector boosters, for the most part, good.
Yeah, no, they're great. If anybody needs a stocking stuffer for me, like,
I definitely think that the initial run, was better than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
It definitely sucked that the price of them at anywhere was so high, especially with, I know EV, like, you can't, obviously, like, you can't be like, oh, let's make it worth $20 and sell it for $22.
Yeah.
But it definitely felt like there were some times where you're like, oh, I feel just more burned than I would if I got a $4 booster because it's a $20 booster and you're cracking some rares that are like...
Yeah. I mean, there was a huge... It was a lot like a Master set where the disparity was so wide on... If you hit big, you hit real big on those. But if you don't, then you're upside down.
So I definitely felt like if you went in knowing like, hey, this is a gamble and I'm doing this because I'm like, I just want to crack some packs.
Yeah.
Hell.
Now you mentioned the price, and the only reason that I really wanted to get into buying these things, the day that Thermal Drain launched, and you could buy the collector's boosters, I found a Reddit thread of a guy who had gone to Barnes & Noble, I believe, he lived somewhere in the Midwest, who had found them for the price of regular boosters.
That happened to me on my first day, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, they messed up, and so he bought them out, and this post spread like wildfire, and so between, just like on one Saturday, my girlfriend and I, we went to 7 different stores, big box retailers, Barnes & Noble type stores as well, looking for good prices on these things. Never found it. Ended up just buying one at that to begin with, but that started the addiction. And
oh yeah, these were definitely fun things.
The number of them that we have all gotten since.
Oh, I don't want to think about it.
Yeah,
I don't want to think about it.
Speaking of the collector's boosters,
how many boxes?
My friend actually bought me the gift box set for Throne of Eldraine.
Yeah.
And that is a value. That was a great. I think it was 1 collector's boosters and then like 10 packs.
10 packs.
Yeah. So it's
and it was $50.
It was the fat pack. Is because it's the same exact packaging as the fat pack too, right?
Yes, I had the box.
And
dope ass shiny box.
And the spin down was gorgeous.
That actually looks a lot better than I thought it did. It's actually shiny.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It comes with like 20 foil lands, 20 regular lands, and then collector's boosters and 10 packs.
The regular fat pack came with the foil lands as well.
Yeah.
And then, as much as I hate to say it, one of my favorite things with these has been the new spin down D20. Like
they're huge.
Gorgeous.
Like the 50% larger, however much larger one. Because like I have a few like boulders of like spin down D20s, but this one's like literally the perfect size, and it's super legible. Yeah. Which is my favorite thing to have on a dice.
Yeah, absolutely. Like my only thing with the holiday version of that, like basically the only difference was the collector booster inside this box. And so
I think that made up for the MSRP. I think like the $50 for the one booster.
In big box stores it did, because we found this one for basically I think it was $45.
Oh, the regular ones are $40.
Well, I forget the number. Like it was cheaper than buying a the fat pack, where the bundle, to buy a bundle plus a cartridge booster was more than buying the holiday version of it. So we went that direction. But if you're paying more than the two combined, you are getting ripped off. Flat out.
It was like, I think I looked on the tag, it was like $50, and I'm like, oh great, because it was $40 for packs, and then another $25 for the thing, and you're like, cool.
Yeah,
and I sold it. So
yeah, and obviously, like, you know, I don't want to tell you guys how to spend your money, obviously, but there's, you know, Magic players, we're all smart people. We know how to count. We know when there's a good value to be had there, and you know
we know when to sell a card.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or trade it.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Now,
so why don't we segue from? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Last piece on Eldraine, we obviously want to touch a little bit on the Pioneer format being launched, and we're gonna do a whole thing on Pioneer next year, since we actually have some data to look at now. Lots of bannings and lots of shakeups have happened in that format. Pioneer being a format that starts with Return to Ravnica forward, and the initial ban list was just the 5 fetch lands from Khans of Tarkir, which has obviously grown bigger since then. But it has probably been one of the best decisions that Wizards has made in terms of formats since Modern.
Yeah. And my favorite, what they did off the bat that I really liked was the first banning before the format was even able to be played, was they banned the fetch lands.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would have immediately just set that barrier, because everything would have been...
Well, I mean, and it prevented it from turning into...
Modern Light.
Not Modern. Not even that, but the format that
Frontier.
Frontier that launched in Japan from Hararuya as basically a way to sell old Magic cards. Brilliant. Yeah, like the initial ban list of the 5 fetch lands was perfect. But you know, we've seen obviously more change there. So we'll get into Pioneer next year. I promise that.
And that was super important too, because what stifled Brawl as much as it was, because I play Brawl every Wednesday. Like I thoroughly enjoy Brawl.
It's on Arena every Wednesday. Yeah, it's going on right now actually.
But
I wish it was every day.
But when Brawl first came out, the entire format was dominated by one commander, which was Baral, Chief of Compliance.
Yeah.
And it just ruined the format right out the gate. So having that ban right from the beginning, I think helped everything be a lot smoother.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's transition away from standard. You know, I would definitely say that Wizards had a gangbuster year in terms of standard sets. Not only with the risk that they took when it comes to Oko, Teferi, Nissa, but just, you know, really telling a lot of really good stories. I think, you know, Throne of Eldraine's a really cool story. The whole wrapping up War of the Spark was a great story.
Yeah.
And one not so great story. Forsaken?
Oh, well, I'm not. Oh, God. God. Magic books. Why? Anyway. A gangbuster year, you know, despite the missteps. I think that for Magic to continue to thrive, you know, as a competitive game, you want to have risks being taken, and if you're not, you know, you're not doing your job. I don't think so. Maybe they took too many risks this year, but I think overall,
yeah.
I think they were on the border of having a powerful set of cards that wasn't degenerate, and I think if they just reel in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was a very fine line, and I think they just overstepped.
Just a little bit.
Oh, but yeah.
Yeah, because that one, and we also forgot the other big card too from the set. Once Upon a Time.
Oh, Once Upon a Time, yeah, which has been banned in standard as well.
Yeah. And then there's one card from Core 22 I wanted to bring up that I totally forgot.
Yeah, go for it.
Mystic Forge being banned in Vintage,
okay.
Stupid fast. Great card.
But
the format for old people. Okay, that's
but again, it was, you know, an Ancient Stirrings, but it was a 0-drop.
yeah. The Wizards needs to learn the lesson, and this is the last word we'll do on standard right here.
No 0-drops.
Needs to learn exactly. No more free spells.
Stop it.
That seems pretty definitive.
Bad.
Okay. Let's shift our attention over to non-standard sets, because obviously Wizards likes to appeal to everybody for the most part during the year. We had Modern Horizons launched at the sort of the middle of spring, I want to say. This was a semi-reprint, semi-new card set that was going to skip standard, go straight into modern. Printed some cards that were not legal in modern, like out, and so they were like older than 8th edition, older than old original Mirrodin, commander deck cards. Printed those into the set and a couple of new cards as well. I'm not gonna lie, I only opened one box and did one draft because this set was hell expensive.
Yeah,
it was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very much an aggro set, which is something we hadn't had for limited all year. Was like a nice solid aggro set. But again, the power levels on a few of the cards were a little janky.
Yeah.
So there was 2 of them right off the bat with Urza and a Hogak.
Yeah. Did you have any experience drafting this set here, Ben?
Yeah, actually, I did 2 pre-releases with my friends. We actually did sealed.
That sounds amazing.
So we each split. It was 8 of us, and we split 2 booster boxes 8 ways.
Okay.
Slivers everywhere.
Or 6 ways, however how it was split up. And we ended up splitting it up and just doing a sealed, kind of a sealed at his friend's at his house.
Nice.
I enjoyed the set. I did green-white slivers with Hex Drinker. Hex Drinker's real fun and limited because people don't answer it.
It's a great card.
But the set itself was actually really I think this was the most fun draft set limited set I've played the entire year.
And it was actually meant to be a draft set, and they made a great draft set. Like next year, we're going to be getting Battle Bond 2, so I mean that will be another great draft set.
Yeah, Battle Bond was fun. Like I think if Wizards were to release more of these sets.
Well, let's put a little asterisk there. These sets we're not talking about because Modern Horizons was a Masters set. Let's wait, was Ultimate Masters this year too?
No,
I think it was the very tail end of last year.
Oh, thank God it was.
It may have been January, but I'm pretty sure it was December.
I think it was
So when you say these kinds of sets, you're talking about draft centric sets, right?
Yes. So let me clarify real quick. So what I mean is like a Battle Bond type set where the packs I think were maybe $2 more. Like I remember Battle Bond wasn't like a higher than.
It was a little bit more, but that was just because it was a little
December 7th on Ultimate Masters. We're good.
So I think releasing draft exclusive sets that can have some powerful cards in it, but I think doing a set where it's like, hey, do you want to draft standard tonight, or do you want to do this other like the unsets, for example, which I know was supposed to be funny, but that
we got an unset this year too, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Didn't touch it.
Those lines.
Wait, we had an unset?
Yeah, we got a Unhinged?
Yeah.
I didn't touch it. I forgot about that one.
Wait, we got Unhinged?
Yeah, or
no.
Whichever was the unset this year.
We're all Googling this right now.
Yeah, this is...
I didn't know there was an unset this year.
This is happening live, people.
No, Unsanctioned comes out in 2020.
Well, no, we had an unset this year with...
It wasn't Unstable.
Whoop. Yeah, it was Unstable. Unstable was this year.
No.
Wait, wasn't it?
No.
2017. Wait. Oh my God! Thank God.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Okay. I'm like.
Never mind.
Disagree.
Never mind.
But I think doing sets like that, where not necessarily an unset, but just a set
and like Phoebe and
focused
those guys
around draft.
This year?
No.
God, okay. Everything's jumbling together.
Yeah.
A set focused around drafting, and the cards are only legal in Vintage Legacy and then like Commander, and having those sets and not introducing broken ass cards. Sorry, I don't know cursing into limited into standard, into modern, into Pioneer, and I think pricing them reasonably, I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah,
I think having LGS
and
options.
We'll see that, and Battle Bond, Conspiracy 2 were all, priced as a standard set. Yeah, and were fun as well. Yeah,
and had some good cards in it too. Had some very good cards in it.
Yeah. I'm not a huge. I like master sets like Ultimate Masters and Modern Horizons and things like that. But especially this one, I think really missed the mark for me. Because you look at the price tag of a booster, like what was it, $8 or whatever, and I think you can buy like the 3-pack blister packs at like big box stores right now.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I was going through the set list then a couple nights ago, looking for like the big hits, and Chris mentioned too, Urza's one, and Hogak. Hogak obviously banned now in Modern.
Red 6
and then
limited.
The only other one I've seen that's come up in any form of deck list was a janky deck. But it was Morophon.
Yeah, Morophon.
So I saw like there's a really janky
it's with
Morophon with the Sorin that drops him, and then you name Slivers as it comes down.
Yep.
And then you free cast Slivers off of him, and you just swing out 22 damage in turn 2 or something like that.
It's goofy. Yeah.
It's a goofy deck. It was fun, but.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing I've seen actually hit deck lists.
Yeah.
But then it was Hogak Summer.
Yeah, completely.
Hogak Summer followed by Oko Winter.
Yeah, ruined Modern, banned Hogak, banned Faithless Looting, unbanned Stoneforge Mystic,
banned Bridge from Below.
that happened earlier this year.
And that was the other thing with the set too, is they didn't want to ban the new card. That was the thing that everybody was buying these for.
Yeah.
So they banned like all the like auxiliary pieces to those dredge decks.
Yeah, Bridge from Below being the big one there.
Like there was that like the manaless dredge deck with Vengevine and Bridge from Below, and they banned one or the other, and then it was like, okay, well now we have Hogak. And it's
it just goes to show.
They eventually got there.
Yeah,
but
I think they.
I was just saying, I think they finally realized that sometimes you have to ban the new card. Seeing Oko leave standard is a pretty good indication that they're not afraid to ban the cards that are breaking formats.
And you said it earlier tonight. The problem is free spells.
Yeah. And Hogak was a free spell, 100%.
Yeah, and I also think Wizards. I would hope Wizards understands that players will identify cards like Oko, cards like Hogak very quickly, and understand like this is gonna get banned, right? Like I don't think there was anyone out there who played Magic at a level that wasn't kitchen table who was like, these cards are gonna stay in standard and modern until forever, right?
Yeah.
No one thought that.
I got rid of like 2 of my Okos because I thought the price was going to drop as soon as were going to get banned.
Yeah.
And then somehow the price
it's
leveled at the same spot.
Yeah.
But I mean, that being said, I still got some good trades for them.
Yeah.
But
and you bring up an interesting point there, Ben. Talking about playing Magic and recognizing these things, and there's something we could certainly have a really in-depth conversation about sort of the solving of formats. How when you look at they were showing the stats at the Mythic Championship that just happened a couple of weekends ago, how many games these guys have been playing on Arena, these guys and girls have been playing on Arena, and it was in the tens of thousands for single individuals.
Yeah.
Not teams, single people were playing tens of thousands of games on Arena, and when you have that kind of data being pumped into the Magic hive mind, you've got all of the MCQ, the qualifiers, the Mythic Championships going on. There is a plethora of Magic knowledge out there that you kind of get to this singularity point where the decks that are being played are 99% the same, and to walk in with something that was not the best known quantity was a conscious decision and a wrong decision in some cases too.
Yes. Well, I think that's why when people like, oh, look at this new deck that came out that's wild, I think it's because when you have people, especially now with the internet and being able to communicate instantaneously with everyone, and when stuff goes unnoticed, it's amazing. But when decks get solved and metas get solved so quickly, like, oh, what's a broken card? Oh, Oko. Okay, cool. Yeah. Everyone play Oko.
The other thing I'll say with the Mythic Championships, especially when they have like the Arena Championships. Bluffing is a big part of actual Magic.
We can talk
being
about
able
that
to
all
miss
night.
Triggers and that kind of stuff is part of
actual Magic,
actual Magic, and that like kind of removes that from it. Like, I mean, you can hold control or you can hold space, but like it's not the same. Like if you've been playing these tens of thousands of games, like these people are, like when they're bluffing or not. So it's like, okay, cool. You have 2 cards in hand. They probably both lands or creatures. I don't care. Here's all my stuff.
Yeah. And then, I mean, and there's
and it's still entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I'm not entertained. It's just
watching Arena will forever be more entertaining than watching Paper Magic. Sorry.
Which is weird to think about when you think about like how much like esports has grown in it. But for Magic, listen, this might be, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion or not. I hate Arena. I don't play it. I don't like it. There's something about Magic Online where I get bored. Like, I'll do a draft, I get bored in 3 seconds. I go to a draft in person. I play Magic
good all night. Yeah. I am very much the same way, and this is definitely a tangent that we could go on probably for a couple hours. I play Magic for a social interaction, not a solo interaction. Even though I'm playing a person, through my computer, I do not enjoy it as much as I do playing real Magic.
That's why I have my PS4. That's why I have WoW. That's why I have other games.
I can do other things by myself.
Comics galore.
Yeah.
Like it. We're all nerds. We need social interaction on occasion.
Yeah. But yeah, to wind it back around to Modern Horizons, lots of big cards came out of that set. But at the end of the day, I was really underwhelmed by just what all came out of that made an impact. But that's going to be the case, with a lot of things. Maybe they played it a little too safe across the board, except for Hogak. Look at, older Masters sets when there were so many cards that were, playable in so many different decks for whether it was Modern Horizons or Eternal Masters, Modern Masters, anything like that. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with those sets, and Modern Horizons definitely ranks towards the bottom of that for me. But yeah, that's just me.
So I think for Modern Horizons, I don't remember, I was listening to a podcast, and I remember they said it's basically like Commander Horizons or like Commander Masters.
It absolutely is. Yeah. It absolutely
is. For Commander, I know which isn't this podcast, but just for Commander, that set was amazing for Commander.
Yes. And we're getting Commander Masters next year.
Yeah, but I think for the target audience, it definitely hit the mark. The fact that it's still on shelves in stores, I think is... in big box stores is a representation of that.
Well, that just tells us that Wizards is cutting out the middleman of the local game store and just selling these packs in big box stores, and they have too many of them. That set came out this summer, and it's still on shelves.
Yeah, I definitely think...
that sounds like a problem to me.
Yeah, it's either the set is bad or they overprinted, or both.
Or both.
But it is a good tangent to the other thing that came out this year.
Yeah, the thing that you cannot... well, I can still find these on the shelves, actually. Well,
very rarely.
I can find...
oh, I found a bunch.
You can still find Commander 2019.
I found Commander 2018 3 weeks ago on the shelf.
You can still find... well, and
you might get lucky, but finding the ones that I want...
that's the trick. Finding the ones that you want is so difficult in big box stores, in local game stores, because they always run out of those, and you've always got the Bant Enchantment one from 2018 still on the shelf that nobody wants.
I bought that. I'm so upset with myself.
Yeah. So
I got that one, but I turned into a fairly decent Tuvasa deck. But that was last year.
Yeah.
This year, though, I thoroughly enjoyed the commander decks this year.
Yeah. So we got Jeskai Flashback, Black Red Madness, Rakdos Madness, Sultai Morphs, which I thought was pretty neat, and then Naya Tokens. But yeah, I was going through again the list of the decks, and you could probably plot a pretty convincing curve of the power of the commander decks over the past couple of years, and this one not only ranks near the bottom in terms of power, in terms of price being so high, and just overall, we can argue value all day long. But just in terms of I'm glad I bought one and won the other three. I would not have paid full price for any more of those. Just because there's not a whole lot of cool stuff in there, to really get a commander player really excited.
So yes and no. Because again, there was also the Brawl decks, and the Brawl decks kind of took something like that, I need new commanders edge off.
Well, the Brawl decks came out after the commander decks came out.
But with the commander decks, though, they were like things that we honestly hadn't really seen a whole lot of. So.
Well, yeah, the Morph deck was the very first Morph Commander.
Yeah.
I think that was the coolest thing that this set did, and it sucks because Morphs and Commander are not good.
I've been seeing a whole bunch of Girid,
Naya Tokens is good.
The Naya Token guy, he's great. He's a lot of fun to play with, play against.
Yep.
Greven is great. Crick is a beast.
Yeah, yeah.
So like there's, and again, like I'm kind of getting more to the point where I'm just buying like individual cards from these sets instead of like maybe like the entire box. But there was a lot of good pieces to be had.
Yeah, I mean, certainly things like Dockside Extortionist comes to mind. But aside from like the commanders, Crick, Anjay Falkenrath created a brand new Madness Doomsday-esque style deck. Mm-hmm. Elsha of the Infinite is a brand new CEDH level power level Storm Commander in a lot of cases. There's some cool stuff in there, but I think
you brought up Dockside Extortionist.
Yeah, Dockside Extortionist.
I've seen that so many games won and lost because of that card, or like somebody steals that card and then or like out of a graveyard or just anything. And it's like
bounces it.
That card wins games.
Yeah,
by itself.
I think they're just the small handful of cards there. I was disappointed in the overall offering of Commander 2019. Ben, what kind of year? How do you feel about Commander 2019? We have lost audio on Ben. Uh-oh. 1 second. There we go.
Is that better?
I heard it. There we go.
Okay, cool. My computer went to sleep, and then I guess it killed it.
Yeah.
So my feeling for this Commander set in particular, is I'll go to a store, and I'll look at, like, the Naya one, and I'm like, this is cool. And then I'm like, I don't want to make Naya tokens, so I put it back. I feel that was what this Commander set was, where you have last year, well, you definitely had, it was still pretty like a limited scope of like what the deck wanted to do. I felt there was still some more freedoms with how you could take some of those commanders.
Okay.
Yep.
And I felt in this one in particular where you're like, oh cool, it's a morph commander. It's like, what am I gonna do with it?
Morphs.
Oh cool, it's a madness commander. What am I gonna do with it? Madness. So
yeah.
it's not like other ones where you might have. I'm gonna go way back to like 16, which was just a good command, like just good commanders. But you can take those decks and buy them and be like, okay, cool, this is what I want to do with this commander. And it felt like the face commanders were like, you're doing this idea, and this is what we're good at, and this is what we're only good at. You're not gonna see the face commanders in the 99 of any deck.
That's true. Yeah.
Because they're not good in any other strategy other than their own, and they're the best being at the helm.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was the biggest disappointment, was having these commanders where you're like, cool, but you see an Anya deck and you're like, okay, cool, so you're a Madness deck where you have all the Madness cards you can play, and then 30 cards you actually want to play, and you just tap her. It's just not an interesting set. I don't feel excited when I see it.
Yeah, I can certainly agree with. I can agree with the argument, and I can also argue against it, because it's gotten to the point where I look at one of the Brawl commanders, Chulane, is just a generically powerful card.
Yeah.
But you have these 2019 commanders that are a little bit more narrow in scope, and I think, at least for me, because I look at commander decks all the time online at when I'm at lunch at work, and there seems to be this singularity moment where lots of things are just kind of converging on, well, if I'm going to play Jund, I don't play anything else other than Korvold. I don't play anything out of Bant because I can just play Chulane. All right, we're getting to the point where we just play the best versions of these things. Like Korvold completely outclasses Kresh and Prosh for Jund commanders.
Yeah.
And I'd rather see
Chulane
focused, specific commanders than generic good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
My opinion.
But I think
I'll say with Chulane, like I have tried to build a not so competitive Chulane deck.
It's hard.
And it's hard not to, because that card draw and that bounce is so damn
does,
good.
Yeah.
It's like
it ramps and draws. like you said, he's just a good commander. But that's over in Brawl, and I'm surprised we haven't seen that in Standard yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think where there's definitely some cards like Urza, where it's like, I want to build budget Urza. And it's like, oh, so you're building Urza because it's Urza.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think we need cards like Atraxa, who you're just like, she's good. I don't think you need cards like that. But I think like pulling it back a little bit and not making it so narrow that it's like, hey, you can only play morphs with like Kadena, where I'm like, that's cool, and I like that idea. But if you get that deck, Kadena's going to stay what she is the rest of the time she's in your collection, which is a morph commander.
Yeah. I think of the four of those decks, Kadena was the Sultai one, the Kadena, was the best one because it was just, this is what this is, and it did the best of showing off its sort of, its colors.
Right.
And it's mechanic. Fun. It is a fun deck.
Oh yeah, very fun.
And it's
on the
good,
other side, like you're saying, like just generically good cards and whatnot. There was one of the other, like it wasn't the face commander, but it was like the second or third one in there for the Rakdos deck, Greven.
Yeah.
And he's
Chainer too.
Yeah. And the new Chainer. They're both just good commanders.
But at the same time, they both singularly do one thing.
But that's what I'd rather see, right?
Right.
At least with Chainer, it's still a Reanimator deck, but you can take it. I feel like Reanimator's broad enough where you can go a couple different. You can go degenerate combo with it. You can go mid range.
That's fair. Like value Reanimator stuff like that.
There's also red, so you can focus on like board wipes and then like steal their stuff or something.
Yeah, there's different ways you can do it, but I definitely think having commanders that are so, this is what I'm good at, and there's nothing else I'm good at, and there's nothing else you can do to make me better or worse than what this is the build and this is what I'm going in. It feels kind of narrow, and I don't want to buy the deck because I'm like, oh, I buy the Naya deck, like, oh.
No.
Oh dear. I definitely see what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to spend my, let's say, if I want to spend my $40, I want to build something that I have created myself instead of buying. But as far as, you know, as a good counterpoint to the argument about them being so narrow, I'm a new player. I've never played Commander. I have $40 to spend on a Commander deck, and my buddy says, "Hey, go buy this this Rakdos one or this Jeskai one, and you will have a very cohesive, for the most part, Commander deck that's a good starting point to move forward." So
yeah.
That's a fair point. I forget that new players are.
And that's what these sets are for. And like like what we did at Dungeon, for instance, where like, you know, the buy one box and then you played the pre-con versus the other ones.
Yeah.
Like these decks were all great to play against each other.
Yeah.
Like
that was fun.
It was a very balanced set.
Yeah.
I think looking at a lens as new players, which is something that I am guilty of not doing sometimes. Even though I've been playing since Almond Cat.
I saw you use correct to drain yourself for 30. Don't give me that.
That was fun. I was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I won with that deck. That deck was degenerate. But
not that game.
No, not at all. Damn it, Mark. I think from a new player perspective, I think having those few cards that are like, oh, when you first play and you're like, oh, this is a $10 card. This is awesome. I have a $10 Magic card. And then you quickly get to fetch lands and good land bait, and like your price goes up. So I think for new players, I definitely think that having those decks are good. I think they are a good starting point for a new player to learn the rules through a very basic idea of like, oh, this is what this mechanic is.
Yeah, so, I will say for new players, new to EDH, though, this probably also wasn't the best commander set because you're starting off with a mechanic. You're not starting off with like just a generic like let's go two years back where you're going with like a color identity.
No, I would say the mechanic is crucial. I mean, what's the hardest thing about building a commander deck is figuring out what the deck's supposed to do. Like, and the only reason that we disagree at that point is because we know what they need to be doing.
Right.
So like, out of all of the commander decks we've seen in the past couple of years, I mean, obviously they all kind of do a thing. I think this one was the best at showing off what that thing was.
Yeah, you got these. You knew what the deck wanted to do. You didn't have questions about, oh, can I do this or this? It was, this is what the deck's trying to do. These are the commanders, except in the Jeskai case, where I think Elsha was the better commander than the face commander.
Yep.
I think that was the only thing. When you're like, you get this deck, you're like, I'm gonna try to do flashback, and I think upgrading the precons upgrading them I think was great because you're like, all right, so cool flashback and graveyard shenanigans and it's done. But I think on the other hand, as someone who we've been playing longer and we're like, oh, I want to get this commander product, what's in it? And you're like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, I will honestly say that had the event for buy a precon, play the precon, when the rest of the precon's been going on that weekend, I would not have touched those. Flat out.
Maybe
not even
a couple of the singles.
I bought a couple singles, but I would not have touched it.
Yeah, I bought Rakdos just because I don't have a Rakdos deck, and I'm like, I hate on you. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah, I would not have. I mean,
so I have Crick.
Yeah, I would have bought a Nelsha and a Darkside Extortionist. And that would have been it.
Yep.
So yeah.
You want Pramicon?
No. Rocco has it now.
Oh God. Well, I'm not surprised.
So I would definitely say, to kind of wrap up the non-standard products for this year, not Wizards' best year.
No, not at all.
But
and then we got the other non-standard product.
Well, we'll get those here in a little bit. We're going to do a special video here in a minute.
But can we talk about Secret Lair before you guys start cracking those?
Okay, yeah,
We can talk about them.
Last thing for the night, Secret Lair. So if you do not know what this was a print-to-order special product. There were 5 of them? 7 of them that you could only order on one day. Each drop was on one day.
There was 8 days total because the first day was
order all of them,
which is what I did.
Yeah. Never actually hold one of these, but
is it a pretty box?
Yeah,
it's not. It's not bad.
It looks nice, like in person.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Oh,
we'll get to that. But they are all reprints of
thank God
some questionable cards in some cases. Brand new art on all of them.
Bitter Blossom.
That they are all that, and they are charging
they're all gorgeous.
Between $30 and $40 for these things, and some of them I just have to go, what the hell were they thinking? But this is the first step in Wizards selling singles directly to the consumer and cutting out the local game store, which I think is a very dangerous path to tread. And that's all I'm going to say.
And I really wish they had given a couple sets or boxes of these 2 LGSs to be able to sell there.
Yeah. It's dangerous.
I think especially with a card like Bitter Blossom, where you're like, this card is just good in the format and whatever format you want to play it in, and now you can just literally buy a Bitter Blossom.
Well, you can't
from
anymore.
Wizards.
They're gone. You can't buy them anymore.
But you could.
You could have, but you can't now. But that's.
I think you do, but you don't.
Yeah, you can pay twice the price for them on eBay if you want. So yeah, so definitely keep an eye on the channel here, guys, because Chris and I are going to unbox all of them in a separate video here. We'll give more thoughts there, obviously, but it's going to be. I'm very curious to see what the future of Secret Lair is, because I don't like them personally. So yeah, this has been 2019 in review. Some good tangents here and there. Excellent Discord, gentlemen. Thank you. Yeah, so I mentioned that there's been a bit of a gap in content here. That is changing in 2020. I already have a lot of really cool ideas for episodes. It's going to be back to set reviews because I miss doing those. I have some ideas for moving forward, and I am probably going to include these 2 fine gentlemen in those plans as well. So get ready to see more of our faces.
Yeah.
In 2020, faces.
100% more beard.
100% more beard.
So
I'm not growing a beard.
Hindsight's 2020. So now
foresight is 2020. Oh. That's bad. So yeah. Big thank you again to
more
Ben.
dumb puns, but
yeah, more of everything in 2020. That's the de facto.
Yeah.
Big thank you to Ben. Big thank you to Chris tonight for watching. Big thank you to you for watching. Again, tell us what you thought about 2019 down in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff on Facebook and whatnot. And yeah, we will see you guys in the new year. So have a great holiday season. I hope you play lots of Magic, and I hope you open lots of Magic presents. Maybe if they're not Magic related, presents are just Magic in general.
Magic related D&D books?
That's also a thing. Yeah.
My mom refuses to buy me Magic cards. She's like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, "How much money can I spend?" And she's like, $200. And I'm like, "Please, Mom." She's like, "No." I'm like, "Okay."
Oh God.
Buy me a tiger, Mom.
Get me a Jace of the Mind Sculptor.
Yeah.
Get a Switch Lite.
There you go. All right.
I'm getting a vacuum because I'm a grown person.
Ew.
There you go. That's the gift that keeps on giving. Good night, everybody.
Good night.